Happy Barbenheimer, Elaine.
Happy Barbenheimer, Mark. Barbenheimered up so much that my voice is gone, so apologies to everyone who's listening. I'm going to keep going through this recording as much as I possibly can, but I can already tell from my voice that I'm a little bit like, what we would call in the north, claggy. There's a lot going on in the back of my throat, possibly picked up by being in two very full cinema screenings for Barbie and Oppenheimer.
I don't think it is that, because I am also suffering a little bit.
But you also went to see Barbenheimer.
But in different screenings to you, so...
Oh, yeah. I think it's that close proximity of people. I mean, it's brilliant, isn't it?
I just tell you now, it's not.
Okay. But I'll go round the houses and say, isn't it brilliant that whatever you think of Barbie and Oppenheimer, and we'll get to that later on in the podcast, whatever you think of those two films, isn't it brilliant that it's brought, get my teeth in... that it's brought more people to the cinema. Our local independent cinema, the Tyneside Cinema that's in Newcastle City Centre, I was hanging about there the other day, not in a weird way, and I heard one of the members of staff say that it was like their most, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like, you know, like the most busy,
Busiest.
That's
Put
what I'm
EST on
looking
the
for.
end
Yeah,
of it.
I will try. The busiest weekend they've had since they've opened back up since the lockdowns,
Wow.
which is brilliant. I'm really pleased that has brought people back to the cinema.
Yeah, I mean, it's all marketing, but it's marketing that's worked, and I think it's been quite natural. It's not been... certain part of this has been contrived by the studios, but I think a lot of this has just been people going... Barbie and Oppenheimer would be a fucking weird double bill, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't it? And then the dressing up as well. I've loved seeing the people who have been in like couples or have been friendship groups, and one's dressed as Barbie and one's dressed as Oppenheimer. There's been a lot of costumery. Again, when I went to the cinema to see Barbie, there was a guy who was selling the tickets and he had his pink t-shirt on, and also someone had walked up, and I was just around the corner. I was like I say, I was listening in, and he said, "Oh, you're here to the Oppenheimer then?" And he said, "Oh, did the hat give it away?" And I could just imagine him wearing the sort of the big hat and everything.
Yeah, just to make it clear, because I did cover this on the last episode, I did not go and do the Barbenheimer back to back. I went and saw Barbie, I had some lunch and thought, I don't think I can give Oppenheimer a clear go after that.
And I think you did the right thing.
Yeah.
Having seen the two separately that I did. And I did Oppenheimer first, and then I went and saw Barbie. So we've had a bit of an interesting that both of us have seen it in a different way.
You say interesting.
I think it's interesting. Well, only interesting because when we get to that point, I don't know what you think about these films. We have not discussed this at all. So I'm interested in it from the point of view of, I wonder how that has coloured how we see those films, if it has at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we get into it?
Yeah, let's go.
Are we going to touch on some TV first?
Yeah, if you've got something, I've got one thing.
I've got something that's really, really quick, but yeah.
Fab. We'll do a quick round of TV, everyone, and then we'll come back for the two films of the moment. Watching television. So I'd like to start off with The Sixth Commandment, which is a 4-part BBC show written by Sarah Phelps, who has done a number of the Agatha Christie's, the more recent Agatha Christie's. And
Did she do And Then There Were None?
Yes, I think so.
Sorry, I didn't mean to just throw that question out there before you...
I'm absolutely convinced that she did. Yes, she did. She did The Witness for the Prosecution, And Then There Were None. And then other shows she's done are like Ordeal by Innocence, The ABC Murders, The Pale Horse, and she's also done Great Expectations and Oliver Twist. So she's done a lot of the classics. Really interesting woman on Twitter, and now on Instagram. We're following her on Instagram. Not afraid to speak her mind, and speaks a lot of sense as well. So I really like Sarah Phelps. This is a true crime drama based on the murders of Peter Farquhar and Anne Moore Martin in Buckinghamshire a few years ago. I remember the murders occurring. I remember the story that this comes from, because it was very unusual in that a student in their 20s had sort of inveigled his way, I don't know if that's a real word, but essentially had got himself into a position where he had entangled himself in the lives of these two people separately, and had romantic relationships, intimate relationships with both of them. Both of them were very much of an age. They were in sort of the twilight of their lives. Both very well respected, very well thought of members of the community. Peter Farquhar was very much involved in the church, but he was also someone who was celebrated as a teacher.
Yes.
Anne-Maure Martin had a beautiful relationship with her niece, who used to see her very regularly, both with lovely family members around them, but neither of whom had married. I think it's important to say as well that Peter Farquhar was gay, but was not openly so.
Okay.
And this guy got into their lives, pretended to be their friend, and then caused the death of both of those people. And usually with true crime, we talk very much about how some of it can make you feel quite icky. And there's lots of books now where the true crime genre is being picked apart and being really criticised. I wanted to watch this because I thought, in the hands of Sarah Phelps, I can't imagine this to be one of those, stereotypical Netflix dramas.
Yeah.
Where you watch a couple of episodes and you think, ooh, I'm not sure this has done anything for the people involved, and I'm sort of left feeling not very clean, as it were.
Yes.
With this, it is the victims and the victims' families are put front and centre. We are with them all the way through, but also the care that the victims are shown within this drama. And I have to say, the cast are amazing. You've got Tim Spall, you've got Anne Reid, Sheila Hancock. It's a beautiful cast, and the younger members of the cast are absolutely amazing as well. Annabelle Scully, I think her name is. Yes, it is. I've just checked it. Annabelle Scully plays Anne-Maure Martin's niece, and you can see just in her performance this thing of like, oh, you've got a new friend. Oh, well, that's great. You're not on your, but also her thinking, I'm not quite sure about this, and why is he at the house all the time, and why is he, and then an argument that they have because she's questioning and the pain and the devastation following her aunt's death that Phelps keeps. It's not just a throwaway, oh, and then she was really upset. You stay with those families, you see everything through the eyes of those families, and it pays very little attention to the person who's committed the crime, other than to watch how he managed to get his way into their lives, to change the will, those sorts of things. I found this incredibly compelling and actually quite harrowing at times, the abuse that's meted out on people who, might be seen to be vulnerable. The idea that this could be happening all of the time, particularly as someone who doesn't, you just can't quite put your finger on it, why then they're not, something not right about them, but because they're not doing anything wrong, and seemingly they're helping someone, and seemingly that person wants them in their life and wants to, is doing this all of their own volition, then would you come across then as being, oh, well, you're after their money and you're just annoyed because they've changed it? You can see how that would work. So it was actually quite harrowing to see these people's lives be turned upside down for this very unpleasant person. I just thought it was brilliant, and it's been getting rave reviews. Sarah Phelps has been speaking out about how she approached the show, but also the surprise that she's had that it's been taken in this way, because true crime does now have that very strange sort of reputation now, doesn't it?
Yeah. And that's the question. Should I be watching this?
You know what? I'm not sure it's for you. I'm not sure what you would get out of it. It's not the sort of thing where there's not a mystery to unpick, for example. It's not an Agatha Christie where you're going, oh, who done it? It's not a light thing. You're essentially watching the abuse of two older people and the subsequent court case and the effect on the family.
Yeah, it doesn't sound too much fun.
It doesn't sound too much fun. It's not fun. But it's very well done, and I think it acts as a warning to people. That's what I've taken away from it. It acts as a warning that people can seem on the surface like they want to do good, also using religion as a tool to get into people's lives and to have a sheen about them. But under the surface, they could be doing a lot of harm. What do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about the Afterparty season 2.
Remind me about the Afterparty season 1.
Yeah, so it was in my top 10 for last year. This is so the first season is a high school reunion. Lots of people meeting up for the first time. They go to their high school reunion. They go back to a classmate's house who's a big successful musician, and he ends up falling off a balcony to his death. And the after party is, each episode is the policeman, played by Tiffany Haddish, interviewing another member of the cast and getting their version of events. And the conceit is that each different person tells the story through a different genre. Mm-hmm. So one might be a high school comedy, one might be a romance, one might be an anime, one might be like a Fast and Furious style action film. It's like a Rashomon style thing. So something you see just in the background on episode 1 is explained in episode 4, but from someone else's viewpoint.
So you're putting it all together yourself. Yeah.
It's incredibly likeable. It's very, very fun. It's produced by Lord and Miller. They said Armstrong and Miller. That's a very different pairing.
Very different.
I think this is Christopher Miller's baby. I think Lord is just there for name only. I think he wrote one of the episodes. But I mean, this has got a great cast. So the first season, the cast was Sam Richardson, who is a big collaborator on I Think You Should Leave. He's the one who ends up singing Who Will Be the Baby of the Year, which is a song which I sang at you for ages.
10 years.
Yeah.
Felt like it.
Zoe Chow, who is a comedic actress who I wasn't familiar with, but really, really good screen presence. But Ben Schwartz, who is in loads of different comedies. He was also in the improv special, which I talked about on a previous episode. Jason Demetriou is in the first series. Ilana Glazer's in it. Dave Franco plays the musician who dies in the first episode, but obviously through the flashbacks appears in all the episodes. Back, doesn't he? And I really, really enjoyed it. It's now back for season 2. I'd recommend watching the first series first because this follows on directly. This also has Sam Richardson and Zoe Chow in it, along with Tiffany Haddish. They are at a wedding, something happens, and they need to call in Tiffany Haddish to get to the bottom of it. And like they've got another great cast. So this has John Cho, Paul Walter Hauser, Ken Jeong, Elizabeth Perkins, Jack Whitehall randomly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's getting in a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Zach Woods from The Office, and I think he's in the Ghostbusters. I remember him being in that. Not the last one, the female
one, the
Ghostbusters.
women, okay.
Yeah. But it's it's really clever. Just to see how each person tells the story, and how it's just comedic in itself. But it's on Apple TV. I don't hear many people talking about it, but it's a really, really fun murder mystery. So yeah, give it a go. It's like half-an-hour episodes as well, which is perfect for me. Yeah, always good.
Yeah.
Should we get to the main event?
Yes, before my voice goes. Thank you.
Saturday night at the movies. Who cares what picture you see? When you're looking with your baby, let's roll in the balcony.
So the question is, what do you do first? Do you do Barbie or do you do Oppenheimer?
Let's do Oppenheimer, because I think that's quite straight. Mm-hmm. And then I would like to touch upon spoilers for Barbie, because I think Barbie was... Well, we'll get onto it.
I've got a bit more to it, okay. So Oppenheimer, obviously the story of Robert What is it? J. Robert Oppenheimer, isn't
Yes.
it? And they make a comment in the film that no one knows what the J is for, but it's there on Wikipedia if you want to look it. If you want to look it up.
I'm gonna look it up now.
I was like, oh, what is that? And then I was like, oh, it's just there. It isn't a mystery at all. Funny how that line has stayed with me. And this is Christopher Nolan's return to the cinema following Tenet, a film which you were delighted to go and see, if I remember rightly. Great lover of Tenet, weren't you, darling?
Oh God, that one was.
I loved that so much, and you hated it.
You didn't love it.
I liked it more than you. I got very confused by it. I didn't really understand it, but I definitely liked it more.
I know a
than
lot
you
of
did.
people liked it more than me. It's very unlikely many people hated it more than me.
I know.
I didn't hate it, but I think it was massively flawed.
Well, this is quite a straight one for Nolan, isn't it? Because this is essentially a biopic. I know people say, well, it's not really one, but it kind of is. It doesn't start with Oppenheimer's early life, but you do get flashes of sort of where he has come from, particularly his younger days at university. It's actually quite a rollicking ride through sort of where he's gone. I got a bit lost at one point where he's at Cambridge and he's at Gothenburg and then he's meeting other people here that he's going over there. So you see sort of like his early days as a scientist. And then the film gets into this entire premise of building the atomic bomb, Oppenheimer known as the father of the atomic bomb, and then the, no pun intended, fallout from that afterwards. When I went into this film, that's kind of all I knew. I'd seen the trailers. There were a lot of ticking clocks in the trailers, which is obviously one of the Nolan things, isn't it? Things to do with time, things to do with things counting down. I thought, oh, it's gonna have Cillian Murphy in. It's gonna have a couple of these other people. I knew Florence Pugh was in it. I knew Emily Blunt was in it. But to be honest with you, going into it, I really wasn't quite sure what the plot was going to be or how it was going to be a Nolan film, because Nolan films always have something going on with them, whether it be timey-wimey or the way that the plot develops.
Yeah.
There's always something
Going
there,
into
isn't
Dunkirk,
there?
I felt the same, and each way it still managed to do that 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, or whatever it was.
It took me ages to work out that was happening as well in Dunkirk.
I think purposefully, yeah. It's only when you see... It might be Cillian Murphy being pulled onto the boat, and you realise that
because Cillian Murphy is a Nolan stalwart right from in the Dark Knight films where he plays the Scarecrow.
Yes,
I think is it something at the back of my head that have I gone slightly mad with this call? That did Cillian Murphy audition to play Batman at some point? I'm sure that's like a little factoid in the back of my head.
I don't know. I've never heard that, but
and that
it
he
would
ended
ring a
up
bell,
being the Scarecrow, which he doesn't have a massive role, does he? But he's just sort of there.
I think he is in the first one. The second one and third one, it's less so.
Yeah, he's just sort of.
I was in
pops up.
Grand Central Station or whatever it's called in Los Angeles, where they did his bit in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, I remember you showing me, and I remember it from the film. So Cillian Murphy, obviously I knew he would be there. He's obviously an excellent actor. A couple of the other names, but apart from that, that's kind of all I knew. Were you the same? Were you just trailers and a couple of people?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to the trailers because I don't go looking for things in trailers. I let them wash over me, and like if I go back afterwards on trailers, I quite often will spot something that I was like, oh, I didn't even notice that, but. Yeah, I try not to pick them apart. So yeah, I knew who Robert Oppenheimer was. If you'd have asked me that before this film was announced, probably wouldn't. I'd say it's someone from history.
Okay, so you wouldn't have known about the atomic bomb, and you
I'd have
wouldn't
known
have
about the
known
atomic bomb, just not known his role in it.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I went in only knowing really him, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, and Robert Downey Jr. Because they feature heavily in the trailer. Yeah.
And I've come away from this film feeling like I've had a proper history lesson. I don't know about you. I've read the Wikipedia page from afterwards as well, as previously alluded to, because I came away thinking, wow, I just did not know the detail involved, and there's such detail in this film. I thought it would be much more of a... I think because the trailers made it feel like it was going to be one of those, we've got to build this bomb, and there's like only so many minutes and there's only so many days, and that's what they had that that time ticking down. But actually, large parts of this film are not really anything to do with the building of the bomb. Large parts of this film are men, and it is mostly men, and mostly white men, sat in very small rooms, and they're not particularly well decorated, sat in quite boring small rooms, and I didn't sort of see coming.
No.
Oh dear, have I hit on something here?
Can I get into this?
Yeah, go on.
So I will start off by saying I am mostly positive about this film. However, I think the first act ticks every box of little things that piss me off about Christopher Nolan's modern films. I think you say, I struggle to keep track of it. It's because it's edited within an inch of its fucking life. You do not let anything time to breathe in that first act. Like, he's in Cambridge, then he's in like Berlin, and then he's in America, and you like, hang on a second, he meets Florence Pugh, and then he's arguing with Florence Pugh, and I'm like, hang on, can we just find out why this is happening? Because 2 seconds ago they were all getting the kit off with each other. And that was the first hour of the film, and I was sat there going, this is absolute shit. Then they build the little town, and I can't remember what the name is, so you're going to remind me.
Alamos.
Yes, Los Alamos, thank you. And the next hour of the film, I thought was absolute world-class Nolan filmmaking. The building of the town. I wish they'd gone into a little bit more in the science, because a lot of this is just, yeah. I mean, just have a look at this. Just have a look at this. This equation. Oh yeah, that looks quite bad, isn't it? Anyway, moving on. And I think it's more interested in putting marbles in bowls and actually explaining what these marbles actually mean and what hurdles they're getting over. And I'm interested in the science, and I would like it to explain it like I'm 5. What are they doing around it? Because a lot of it is just blah, 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 science. Yep, another few marbles in a bowl. I think the test is one of the most beautiful sequences I've seen on a screen. And I saw this in a massive screen. It wasn't IMAX, I'll say that now, but it was a big, big screen. It was digitally projected, and it was beautiful. The shots of the explosion were beautiful, and there is an amazing jump scare in this where I suspect you know what I'm talking about, where it uses sound absolutely inch perfectly. Minutes after that, we get the rally rousing moment where everyone sat on the bleachers and he's announcing what has happened, and you see the horror in his eyes, and I think it's an absolutely amazing performance from Cillian Murphy. And I'm looking at my watch and I'm going, there's a fucking hour of this film left. And from there, I think the film, something that I thought was going to be a framing device for the film, becomes the focal point. And after that, I'm like, why should I care? Because I think everything after we leave Los Alamos seems inconsequential. And I understand the story that they're trying to tell. But it is, after the Beatles have left the stage, here come the monkeys on tricycles to entertain the crowd. It's like, no. I think this is an awfully paced film. I've heard lots of people who disagree with me on that, and I am absolutely delighted for people who thought this was as I've heard 5 stars. I've heard one of the best films I've ever made.
I've heard the best Nolan as well.
For me, it is mid-level Nolan.
Okay.
And like mid-level Nolan is still
it's still brilliant,
coming.
Yeah.
I would probably put this below everything that isn't Dark Knight Rises and Tenet for me. Okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a 3-star film, and I think for me, and I think that is a problem for a film of this size and magnitude
and beauty. And
yeah.
Beautifully constructed.
I think there's a third of it that's absolutely stunning, but it's sandwiched between something that for me was an absolute incoherent mess and an After the Lord's Mayor's Parade.
Oh, it's really interesting. I didn't find it incoherent at all. I really like being challenged. I like going to the cinema and having to keep up. I'm not so bothered about the science because I wouldn't understand it anyway. I quite like the fact that it was very simplified to the marbles in the bowl, because then at least I could follow it along. I really like the fast pacing. I'll come back to the Florence Pugh moment in a minute if you remind me to do so. I like the fast pacing. I like the idea because we're galloping forward through time, and either we're going to stay, we're going to stay in Cambridge for a billion years, and we're going to stay in, but we need to move it. We need to move it along to the to the atomic bomb. I really like the moral quandaries that the film raises. I like the fact that we're never quite sure where he is. It doesn't come down on either side, and it leaves a lot of it with us. I think the film
raises them. I don't think it answers them, and I don't think it touches upon them anywhere near as much as I think it could. As I think the subject deserves.
I think it's very much where he didn't come out and say what there was a lot of movement, a lot of ambiguity. I really like the politics, and I think that's where you found it hard. What you're calling the framing device, I totally understand where you're going with that without going into spoilers. And that part of the film, I really enjoyed because I quite like. Digging into the 1950s, it's raising issues of the Communist Party, McCarthyism. It's looking at the politics of the time, which I really enjoyed, and I like that you're following this central figure, and then you're seeing how the world swirls around him. So he is someone who's created this devastating device which has resolved issues for a country. And yet they tear him apart in a small room. And I think we're so far apart on this, but where I think we might find some coherence and some togetherness is in the treatment of the women in the film. As Nolan finds it very hard to write. This is not a surprise. This comes about every time. The Florence Pugh character, I think that relationship of Jean Talbot and Oppenheimer, at one point they say Oppenheimer's a womanizer, and so we need to see that. I wish we'd seen a bit more of it, because if he's a womanizer, having a wife and going off with Florence Pugh does not a womanizer make.
No.
There are suggestions that he's had relationships with other people, but we don't see that. I would have liked to have seen more of the man. But halfway through having sex with him, Florence Pugh gets up, goes to a bookshelf that isn't her own, and just gets a random book out in Sanskrit and gets him to read out the phrase that he is supposedly meant to have said once he creates the atomic bomb. I am death, the destroyer of worlds. Oh, my hands were in my eye. And you're like, which is difficult to do when you've got this throat of mine. I was like, that cannot have happened. It can't have happened. But also, even if we're making it up for the film, there's two things. A, no way is anyone, when they're in the middle of having sex, just going to go, hang on a minute, love. I'm just off to the bookshelf to find you a book to read me something, because that's going to do it for me. But also, too, she's hardly going to get this book, the one fit, and, the thing that he's going to say, he's meant to have said. He doesn't even say it later on. So it was probably to get him to say it then. But that doesn't make any sense. And then like you say, you don't really get to see the route. 1 minute they're going out, next minute she's mean to him. I think we're meant to think that she's having some sort of depressive episode, but that never really gets into, and then we see what happens to her later. I think Emily Blunt does a brilliant job with a difficult and underwritten character of Kitty Oppenheimer, which is his wife.
Especially in the third act. And
yes.
That was the thing that worked for me in the third act. But, it paled into insignificance compared to the second act. And I don't think it was a finale for me. I think it could have been edited better and edited into the story so it didn't feel like an anticlimax, and I wish it was.
I'd like to know a little bit more about her mental state and her being. So,
but honey, there was a bottle of whiskey that fell out her bag at one point. So
clearly she has. This is this is a real life, so we know that this happened. She was clearly an alcoholic and a long-term alcoholic who has a difficult relationship with her children. But I never really got to there might have been a suggestion of some sort of postnatal depression, but we never really get into that, and maybe it's because we would never know, so he was suggesting at it. But I didn't get the sense of a woman who's looking for freedom away from her children. I didn't get the sense of a woman, because I've heard this, people say, oh, she's a woman trapped in a different time, and I did not get that. But I thought Emily Blunt did a brilliant job of portraying her with what she had to work with.
So I appreciate you picking up on the female characters there. I don't think I get to know Robert Oppenheimer all that well.
Well, he's
on screen virtually every minute, and I
Yeah.
could tell you very little about his personality at the end of it. He is saying science things, he goes around with Florence Pugh
for a bit.
Could have done with more, but yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of this left me cold.
I thoroughly respected the film. I thought it was a beautiful piece of filmmaking.
Put that on the poster.
No,
I thoroughly
did.
respected
I
it.
think this is a 5-star film in terms of filmmaking. But halfway through, and I wasn't bored. I wasn't looking at my watch, by the way. I got to the end of the 3 hours and thought, this is amazing. And it has stayed with me since, and I've done a lot of reading around the different people. And I've gone back to it and thought about it and thought about those moral challenges as well quite a lot. But halfway through, I remember thinking to myself, oh, I wish I was watching Inception. And that's what was missing for me. I was missing that early Nolan, that, it's probably not even early really, is it? But, you know, that playful Christopher Nolan I'm missing. I think because we've had Dunkirk and Interstellar and that I would say they're all cold, this film, but they're really, really cold, those films. They're not films that I ever want to watch again. I will never watch this again.
I think Inception's quite playful.
Inception is playful. That's
I think
it,
the Tom Hardy character,
yes.
you know,
It's
who subconscious are we
Bondian.
in?
Yeah, I love that in it, and that it goes at goes like the clappers, doesn't it? But you're taken along with it in a ride, in sort of the way that you're down a mountain, this, and then I just love it. And if that came on the telly, whatever scene we were at, I just watch it till the end because I'd be immersed in it. Whereas I remember thinking at the end, wow, I've seen a piece of cinema here, and I'm really glad I've seen it, but I won't watch this again.
I went back and listened to my Tenet review, and I said the same thing about the editing that was there, that I said about the first act of this film. It almost at times felt like it was kind of a flashback montage where we're seeing scenes again and little clips of it where they're just revealing stuff, and it was incomplete frames and everything was rushed. Something Nolan is doing in the editing booth is really putting me off, and I fully accept that this is a personal preference, but I wish he'd stop it because I really, really want to like his films more, and it really, really alienates
It's odd,
me
isn't
from
it?
the
Because I
start of
just
this
don't
film.
find it a problem. In fact, it invigorates me and makes me go, oh, right, we're on a ride. Here we go. So it's obviously a very personal thing, isn't it?
For me, I think it's bad filmmaking, and I think it's bad storytelling.
Barbie. And now for something completely different.
I'm a Barbie girl.
You are a Barbie girl. You're my Ken. Which one would you be, though? Which Ken would you be?
I'd be Beach Ken.
Would you just be Beach Ken?
Yeah. With the blonde hair.
Yeah.
I just want hair, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some Kens that I'd like to be, but I think they'd be classed as spoilers.
Yeah, we'll not go into them quite yet.
You're like Cindy.
Oh, thanks. I prefer Cindy, actually.
Of course you do.
Never played with dolls as a kid.
Again, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. Not really my thing.
That's the most Elaine thing you've ever said.
Yeah, I mean, but staying on that, I'm not a Barbie person whatsoever. When I heard there was going to be a Barbie film, I probably rolled my eyes. And yet people have taken this film to their hearts. The amount of Barbies, the amount of pink I've seen around town. I went around Asda the other day, and there was a family of 4. Mum, 2 girls and a little boy. The little boy was about 3, and they were all wearing pink shirts, and they were all going off to see Barbie. Something has happened within the megastructure of life that has meant that people have just got behind this film, and it's become a thing. You know, they're doing Prosecco and popcorn parties. My showing, it was so chatty. Like, it wasn't chatty to the point where it was putting me off, but it was chatty, and arms were going up in the air. There's one point in the film where people start waving, and I felt like I was at Rocky Horror, because all the people next to me started doing this waving. I was like, hang on a minute, have you been to see the film like 10 times and this is what we're all meant to do now? Is this a showing of The Room? That
I was going to say they're going to throw some spoons in there.
I know. I was like, I was sat there, I'm like, it's me. Well, I'm not bloody waving. I'm going to put my arms together like this, and my hand will not leave my arm. I'm just going to fold my arms here and wait for the waving to stop. This is ridiculous. But also there was someone else who, every time something, in inverted commas, comedic came on, you would think the name brilliant comedian had walked onto stage and given a London Palladium performance in the most funny thing of their life, because it was like proper guffawing, like laughing. And I was like, well, it's a bit funny, but it's not that funny. So something has come over the world with this Barbie film.
Yes, it's called comedy. Honey. try appreciating it for once in your life.
Well, once again, I mean, a little bit like with Oppenheimer, I had no idea what to expect. Saw the trailers, saw it was big and bold and pink, but did not know what Greta Gerwig was going to do with it. You know, famed mumblecore director Greta Gerwig. What was she going to do?
The trailer has purposefully... 90% of the trailer is the first 10 minutes of this film, and I think that was a genius piece of marketing. Because it also helped people. My showing was the first in the morning on the first day of end of term for some kids, and there were 6-year-olds flying into the cinema for this. And then the trailers came, and you saw mums being really, really awkward at some of the Joyride trailer stuff.
Well, I had a trailer for an independent film called Scrubbers, which was all about a little girl who's lost her mum and whose dad comes back into her life, and clearly it's like a working class film, and the girl gets up to lots of things that I think younger children wouldn't be encouraged to do. There's language, they were showing trailers that were appropriate for a 12A film, because this is a 12A. This is not a U, this is not a PG. It's a feminist retelling of a doll's, life. Yeah.
I mean, I got the piss taken at me at work. Like, when I said, oh yeah, I'm taking the day off because I want to see Barbie and Oppenheimer tomorrow. Like, Barbie? I was like, yeah. Like, Barbie? You're going to see Barbie? And I was like, yes. And like, my daughter wants to go see that. And I'm like, she's 5.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not really sure that's the film you think
it's
it's going to be.
There's a complete lack of understanding as to what this film is.
But, I mean, and again, it's hidden in the trailer. Like, this, on the surface, this looks like a very tongue-in-cheek... And it's only because we know Greta Gerwig, and I don't think... the marketing indicates that this is a Barbie film rather than anything more.
And also, if you hear, there's a Barbie film, unless you sort of read all the film magazines and this is the podcast that we did, you probably would have thought, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a you. Maybe it's a cartoon. Maybe, it's going to be this very sort of like Trolls or a Disney thing, or, that sort of marketing tool, which, I mean, it still is a marketing tool to the greatest of extent. Do you want to go first with Barbie, or do you want me to?
I think this is the funniest film I've seen in the cinema for years. I sat there with a big smile on my face. Everyone in the crowd was laughing. I was laughing along with it, like proper laugh out loud moments. I think the first act is the Lego Movie, which I am always down for. Like, I think it's that knowing humour, that playing on the tropes that, I mean, I don't know shit about Barbie, but I can see that the tropes that they are using make total sense. Like, I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah. Then we go into Star Trek 4, which I'm always happy with. And then the film flips. Now, I think there are problems with the third act. There are characters that just disappear for a little bit and then everything's resolved and they reappear again. But I loved this, and the absolute balls for doing the film that Greta Gerwig has done. I applaud, and if this isn't in my top 10 of the year, this will be a miracle.
I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. So today, Casia Delgado wrote for the I newspaper all about Barbie, and the tagline for her piece was, "I hated Barbie." Now, I didn't hate Barbie. I came out of Barbie kind of going, and then later on in the day, I then remembered I'd been to see Barbie and was then more interested in the fact that I'd forgotten that I'd been to see it whilst I was still thinking about Oppenheimer. I found that really intriguing. I was like, oh God, I went to see that. Totally fell out of my head that I'd done that day. Now, Casia's got real issues with the film and with what it's going to say, and the fact that it is just marketing for Mattel and they're going to sell shitloads of Barbies off of this. But some of the things that she has to say really resonated with me, and one of the things that she had to say was that she was reticent about coming out and talking about not liking Barbie because the whole world has taken on this go Barbie go profile, and if you don't like it, then you're a bad feminist, or if you don't like it, you're an incel. You know, there doesn't seem to be sort of like a middle ground of like, it's all right.
If you don't like it, you are the child that met its dad in the Costa when I was queuing up to get a coffee for Odeon. His dad said, "What was Barbie like?" It's fucking feminist shit.
Oh no, see, that's what I mean. Like, I'm not that person. I found well, I mean, there's some interesting feminism in there. I have a problem with the third act. But anyway, it has some lovely moments in, particularly between a daughter and a mother. It spins out the stuff that we know, about the patriarchy and about how women are seen as second class citizens. So all of these things we know, and I really liked the way that the film spun that and turned it around. But I just didn't feel it was a film. I felt it was a series of moments. And some are brilliant. Like the first 10 minutes, like you say, we're in Barbie Land. We're looking at the dream house. I don't really know what the dream house is, but now I do. The sets are amazing. There's so much pink. The way that the characters are set up as all the different Barbies, brilliant. The beach and Ken and all the Kens, and like they're all having a wonderful time, and I sort of went along with them. But as the film went on, I began to question the way that it was presenting certain feminist politics, and I began to sort of I couldn't quite put my finger on it actually, because I got to the time I was like, I just don't know what it's saying. It almost feels like it almost felt like that they were just reading out the things that you get on like the Live, Laugh, Love sort of memes about being a woman and how difficult it is to be a woman, and they want us to be thin, but then when we're too thin, and it's like all of these things are true. They want us to be clever, but they can't be too clever, and again, all of these things are true. But I just kind of felt like it was just packaged in a particular way, and some of the final bits around the Kens, I just couldn't quite. It just something didn't quite sit right with me. I also felt that if we want this to be truly representative, and there's a lot of work gone into this film to include all Barbies, so you see Barbies of all sizes, you see Barbies of all colours, you see Barbies doing all different jobs, you see wheelchair Barbie. I would have liked to have seen those Barbies for more than a second. Like, oh look, there's wheelchair Barbie. Oh, there she is for a second. Oh, we've ticked that box now. That's how I genuinely how I felt. Oh, there's a Barbie that's in a bigger body. Oh well, we've ticked that box. I realised that Margot Robbie is the central character, and therefore we're following her. But I sort of felt that there was a missed opportunity to maybe bring those other people in, because the majority of the Barbies who are around her and are part of her crew look exactly like a stereotypical Barbie, and not the diversity that we would have liked to have seen. equally, there were people, most of whom were from sex education,
I was going to say, yeah.
Who were just there. They were just there, and there was no character development. Most of the time, they didn't really say anything, and when they did say something, they had some sort of innocuous line, and that was it. So I walked out feeling a little bit uneasy with what the film was trying to say. I felt uneasy about the tick box diversity, and I kind of went, okay.
I totally disagree. I can understand where you're coming from. I think your opinion is missing the point. There are, by necessity of having all these Barbies, there are going to be people who aren't on the at the front of this. John Cena gets a 2-second cameo in this, for example, and he is mentioned on the thing. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that. I understand what you are saying, but for me, I feel it's more tokenism to. I feel it's more tokenism to put them front and center in the.
I totally disagree with that. That's not tokenism. Is here's something for you, and then off we go. If we were being truly inclusive, then one of her best mates would be Wheelchair Barbie. If we, I'm not even. And obviously, I'm picking that because
is that not just tokenism of putting, just making sure that they like. We have a friend in a wheelchair.
But no, that's not what I'm saying. And all I'm saying is it just stood out like a sore thumb that those people were put at the back, that those people that still didn't fit what we think of as a Barbie were still placed in the background and not in the foreground.
But I think you've got black Barbies that play a big part in this. You've got people of all races in the Kens as well.
I know.
I understand.
I know. And it's just something that has stuck in my mind. I just and it's disingenuous of me not to raise it as something that I found to be problematic.
I think the danger is like the 80s trope of black best friend, and I think that's where I would feel I'd feel more uncomfortable in that than what we got.
I also just didn't find it funny, and that's. You know how you say the editing for Oppenheimer is your thing?
Yeah.
This is clearly my thing. I did laugh every now and again, but as soon as Will Ferrell came on, I mean, the laughs just stopped for me. I do not find him funny. But those are the people in this that just... The best of British talent were in this film, and they just didn't get to do anything, and I just thought that was a bit of a shame.
So what did you laugh at?
I laughed at the irony. So I laughed at things where Barbie goes and assumes that women have more power than they do. Yeah. When the wry little lines about women's roles in the world and how women can be everything you want to be and how feminism is fit. I like that because that to me is it's witty.
Yeah.
So those sorts I laughed at John Cena popping up. Those things are great, but and to be honest with you, I like some of the darker stuff. There's a little bit of darkness.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
With one particular kind of Barbie.
Yes.
And the people who reside in her home.
Yes.
That I really like those darker moments and maybe Barbies that we haven't seen for a while, but perhaps Mattel decided that they weren't meant to be there. Or Barbie's friends, for example. Yeah, I did like that. I'm not saying it's a terrible film by any stretch of the imagination. I just came out of it going, okay. And maybe I would have felt more... I don't know whether it's because it's been built up so much. That was the other thing as well, that I was then looking at it from the perspective of, oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? Oh, well, it's meant to be very feminist, and, well, I'm not quite sure about this and this and that. I wonder if I just went in over-analysing it because so much had been built up around it. But I do totally understand how if you went to see that film with a great big bucket of wine, in one of those bucket glasses that you get, probably pink wine, with a cowboy hat on.
Rosé.
Yes, darling. With a cowboy hat on and maybe, waving at the appropriate moment, you'd have the time of your life. I might end up doing that with my mates at some point, and that's absolutely fine.
Why I'm invited.
You can come if you want.
We need a babysitter.
It's true.
Can I just go and you stop?
Yeah,
well,
I think you probably have
I get more out of it.
a better idea. I'm finding it very hard to articulate what it is that just didn't quite work for me. And that's frustrating. But I just, it was fine. It was fine. I don't think it'll be in my top 10 of the year. But I'm happy that you really enjoyed it and that you took a lot away from it and that you found it funny.
Yeah, I mean, there is one of the biggest laughs I've ever done in the cinema from this film.
Okay.
Yeah. Should we get into spoilers, just so we can talk a bit more openly?
Yeah, fine.
You don't have
No,
much to talk
I
about,
don't
do
have
you?
much to talk about.
Yeah.
No,
No,
to be
well,
quite honest
we'll
with
do
you.
it briefly, but yeah.
Okay, right, fine.
Well, thank you if you're leaving us at this point. This nice little domestic between us about these two films that we have very opposing views on. I think we just swap the...
swap us round.
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram, X and Instagram.
Oh no.
As it's called at time of recording.
I bet it won't be by the time we get it out.
At the Honeymoon Pod. And you can find us wherever you get podcasts.
And sorry about my horrible voice.
But yeah, we'll see you next time.
What spoilers for Barbie do you want to go into? I can't think of anything but this is my feelings on the film is I don't really
give a fuck about this film.
I just don't feel there's much to talk about.
So I can tell about the funny
Go on, you
line
tell
for
me
me
your funny bit, yeah.
Is, and I'll say now, I hate it when a film goes with something and then forgets it after the first act. And I really enjoyed the Helen Mirren narration, and then that does just disappear. However,
comes back at the end though, doesn't it? Yeah.
However, nut filmmakers.
Oh yeah.
This would be far. If you're going to make this point, better
don't cast Margot Robbie. Yeah. Fine.
Fine.
No, I'm not fine in that. I'm saying
okay.
Fine in a good way.
The Kens taking over the world didn't necessarily work for me.
Okay. Did you not like them riding their horses, though?
I mean, it was funny the first time, shall I say that?
And horses all over the house.
Yeah, and each... I'm sure there's a lot of things in the background that I will find hilarious on the 14th watch of this. The use of the Matchbox 20 song, the whole musical sequence of I'm Ken, Anywhere Else I'd Be a 10 was brilliant. The executives, and I know that you are not a fan of Will Ferrell.
No.
I mean, I thought the idea of, we had a female CEO, we had one in the 90s, I thought was a really funny trope. And Mattel making fun of itself anyway, whether they had any sign-off around this or anything.
Oh yeah, I mean they did. I mean I remember someone from Mattel coming on and talking on one of the film podcasts. I forget which one, otherwise I'd credit it, and saying, we are very much behind this. When they came to us, when they told us what they were going to do, but you know why? I mean they're just going to sell an absolute shitload of Barbies off of this, and they're going to rebrand it as feminist Barbie, and you can be anything that you want to be, and. I think they're already throwing Barbies into schools and things. So, Mattel are going to make a lot of money out of this. So, sort of saying all making a point about all male boardroom. It's not going to change it, is it? They haven't brought any women on board, for example. You know what I mean? Like, it's all, when you're talking about tokenism, here's some tokenism. Let's all laugh at the all male board and the executive, but what are you actually going to do about it? Probably nothing. Go on.
Do you not think that, look, right, we're coming from, I think, Battleships, which was the most, awful representation of a film.
I think it was just called Battleship as well. I don't think it was Battleships. Was it, the film?
I think
it was just Battleship, not plural.
I don't think it's important in the grand scheme of things. But really awful films.
Yeah.
And I think Hollywood is going to take the wrong lessons from this. We will be getting... They will be taking, look, we can do, what's a really shit, Mopper Top's Mopper Shop or whatever. No, that's not what it's called. That's an ITV film.
That's an old film. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like, you're not going to... Well, you already do, don't you get...
The Play-Doh Barbershop film. And not be taking it as a really well-scripted, funny look and, with using a great filmmaker. love to see that Connor Swindell appear in this. I was like, oh my god, and I didn't even recognise Cutie Gatwa.
Oh, Shooty Gatwa?
Yeah,
You
I didn't recognise him.
But he doesn't have anything to do. I think
He doesn't.
That's my
He doesn't.
problem.
That's
He
the
doesn't.
thing.
He gets like one line at the end.
Emma Mackey has a bit to do, but not.
But it's all yeah, and it just sort of felt like, well, if you're going to do that with all of them together, then make a thing out. Or you know, I'm kind of imagining Amy Lou Wood popping up at one. You know, it just, I think the casting was not great on that. Because that's all you're thinking about, isn't it? It's like, oh, sex education.
I don't think.
You know.
I think that will be the 0.1% or the 0.1% who goes to see it who recognises that. To be fair.
But like I said, I thought the costuming was amazing. I thought the sets were amazing. As you know, moments in time when you think, oh right, we're it's not skateboarding. We're rollerblading along Venice Beach. You know, the way that,
I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
having been to Venice Beach recently.
I know. So they're in their costume there when they're in Barbie land. You know, all of those things. I think, and like you say, the bit at the end where it turns into a musical, it just seemed to be bitty. It was like, right, here's the next bit. Right, here's the next bit, and here's the next scene that you're going to enjoy, and here's another one, rather than being a coherent film. I didn't feel it was a film. I also felt that they were really trying, and I refused to do it.
That's why you're pointing at me.
Yeah, they were really trying to like pull at the heartstrings of, here's the little old lady that made Barbie, and the ghost of her is
absolutely
on the 17th. I know you're. Yeah.
I also
very
cried
emotional.
when Barbie was sat on the bench and talked to the old lady.
No, it just. I was like, this is so manipulative.
You have no soul.
It's so manipulative. It's it's putting onto someone who's a real life person these sort of, oh, I'm a lovely little old lady and I named it after my daughter, and like,
sorry, what's wrong with that?
No, I just don't think these things are. I think it's branding. I think this woman was the CEO of Mattel. And she had some very strong fraudulent actions happening within that company. And I know they make a joke about the IRS, but they do it in a sort of like, oh, and I had a little bit of problem. Like, she defrauded the business and then had to leave. You know, there are the financial problems that she created for that company.
You're looking for things to dislike about this film.
I'm not looking for things to dislike about it. Before I even looked her up, I just thought, oh, what
I've
is
not
this?
looked her up, and I
did afterwards because I wanted to understand what the tax invasion was. Anyway,
tax invasion.
I'm very unwell. Do not correct me when I'm unwell. I didn't hate it. I just didn't go with it the way that other people did. And I felt it was very manipulative, particularly at the end, and it was trying to do this sort of faux come on women, and yeah. And I'm just the wrong woman for it, clearly. I just haven't found that part of my soul.
Yes.
Apparently.
You don't have one.
Thanks. Can we end now?
Yeah,
Please,
before we go, like, you must at least appreciate Kate McKinnon, who I know is a big fan of you.
Yeah.
Fan of you.
Is she?
Yes,
oh,
yes.
Amazing.
Sorry, you are a big fan of her.
I loved Weird Barbie, the dark, but you know, I think Sugar Daddy Ken was an interesting one. But you know, the Barbie where the boobs grew,
and all grown up.
Yes. Yeah, that one. The Midge, is it?
Midge, the friend.
The friend who's
Yes.
pregnant. Did you know that's Emerald Fennell who played that?
Yeah.
She was pregnant at the time. So I liked all of those sorts of things. That definitely played into my dark, dark soul. You're right.
And Michael Cera as Alan.
Didn't do anything for me.
Well, I'll watch this again.
Yeah.
You can watch Oppenheimer.
I'm not going to watch Oppenheimer again.
And in the extra hour that I've got to, I'll just end up finish it after an hour.
Who?
Finish
what?
Oppenheimer after an hour, after 2 hours, and then it's a better film.
I disagree, but let's just pause.
Okay.
Yeah, now I can't go on anymore. I genuinely cannot talk any longer.
Well, providing Elaine can speak again, we will be back soon. There's not a lot coming out in the cinemas because there's a strike on, and but we will find things to talk about.
There's that awful Poirot film where there's a ghost in it that I can't go and see.
You'll go see it.
I'm not going to see it. I can't see it. I can't even watch the trailer. Anyway, can't speak. Must go.
You're doing a bloody good job of not speaking. Right, we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. See you later.
Bye.